September 10, 2025. A cargo ship inches forward in gray Arctic light, steel scraping past broken ice plates. An icebreaker leads the way, cracking a narrow channel through water that still wants to freeze. That same week, scientists at the National Snow and Ice Data Center, NSIDC, said Arctic sea ice likely hit its yearly low point on September 10 at about 4.60 million square kilometers. The crew can see the paradox. The ice is low, and yet it is everywhere. 30 years earlier, this trip would have been harder to even schedule. Over the long run, September Arctic sea ice has been shrinking since satellite records began in 1979, and NASA summarizes the decline at about 12% per decade. The IPCC, a major climate science panel, also reports that the Arctic has warmed faster than the global average, helped by feedbacks like losing bright ice that once reflected sunlight. A feedback is a loop that makes a change grow bigger. That is the engine behind this new shipping season. The ship is not chasing adventure. It is chasing a shortcut that could save days at sea. This path is the Northern Sea Route, a shipping corridor along Russia's Arctic coast. Navigable means ships can safely pass. This route is becoming navigable for more months and many years as sea ice retreats. The question is simple and heavy. Can a route opened by climate change become one of the most important trade corridors of the next 50 years? On a global shipping map, Shanghai to Rotterdam usually points through the Suez Canal. But there is another line that keeps getting brighter, north, across the Arctic. Routing studies show the Arctic path can be thousands of kilometers shorter than the Suez route for some Asia to Europe trips, depending on the exact ports and track. That is why planners keep looking north, even if they only use it for a short season. And planners have fresh memories of what happens when the usual routes fail. On March 23, 2021, the Ever Given ran aground and blocked the Suez Canal for 6 days. Reuters reported that about 15% of world shipping traffic uses Suez, so a single accident slowed a huge slice of trade. The message was clear: the world does not like having only one main door between Europe and Asia. The stress did not end with one stuck ship. On February 27, 2026, Reuters reported that Maersk said it would reroute some sailings around the Cape of Good Hope, away from the Suez route, because of constraints in the Red Sea region. The Cape route is long, and that extra distance can mean extra fuel and extra days. When big carriers keep shifting routes like this, it reminds everyone that the usual way is not guaranteed. That is when the Arctic shortcut starts to look less like a curiosity and more like a serious seasonal option. The Northern Sea Route runs along Russia's north coast from the region near the Bering Strait in the east toward the Barents and Kara Seas in the west. It overlaps with the wider idea of the Northeast Passage. But this is not just geography. It is also about power, who controls access, who offers services like icebreakers, and who collects fees. Even the ship itself is part of the story. The International Maritime Organization, the IMO, sets global rules for safety at sea. It has a polar code for ships working in polar waters, covering ship design, gear, training, and pollution control. In plain words, the Arctic is not open water with a new label. It is a high-risk workplace with strict requirements. Here is the first hard truth. The National Snow and Ice Data Center says no part of the Northeast Passage is guaranteed to be ice-free at any particular time. A 2023 study highlighted by NSIDC found the best window for ships is usually mid-September, when sea ice hits its yearly minimum. That sounds good until you realize what it means. A global supply chain wants reliable schedules in every month, not one narrow season. Even at the 2025 minimum, NSIDC warned the number is preliminary and late-season weather can still move ice around. Preliminary means it can still change after more data comes in. A storm can compress floating ice into thicker piles, turning less ice overall into more ice in the wrong place. That makes the route risky for just-in-time shipping. Just-in-time means factories get parts right when they need them, with little extra stored. The second truth is cost. Polar shipping often needs stronger hulls, trained crews, better forecasts, and, at times, icebreaker support. Search and rescue is also harder in the far north, where ports and help can be far away and weather can turn fast. Then there are fuel rules. On July 1, 2024, Reuters reported that the IMO implemented a ban on the use and carriage of heavy fuel oil, a thick tar-like fuel, in Arctic waters. though exemptions can delay full effect for some ships to 2029. So the Arctic route is not only a shorter line on a map, it is a thicker stack of requirements. And the climate story keeps looping back. Black carbon is tiny dark soot from burning fuel. When it lands on snow or ice, it can make the surface darker and melt faster. In October 2024, the IMO adopted guidance meant to help ships reduce black carbon emissions in or near the Arctic. Guidance means recommended steps, not always strict law. That is the uncomfortable feedback. The route opens because ice melts, but ships can add to the conditions that melt ice faster. Unlike a canal in a neutral strip of land, the Northern Sea Route hugs one country's shoreline for most of its length. That makes Russia the gatekeeper. A gatekeeper is the one who can say yes, no, or set the price. Reuters has reported Russia's push to grow cargo and extend the season, even while admitting winter ice is still a major barrier. In June 2019, Reuters reported Rosatom estimated the project would need 735 billion rubles in investment, with about a third from the state budget. This is not a small side road. It is a national-scale build. A big share of that plan depends on icebreakers, including nuclear-powered ones. Nuclear-powered means the ship can run for long periods without refueling. That matters when distances are huge and ports are scarce. In 2025, World Nuclear News described plans to expand the icebreaker fleet that supports this route and Russia's Arctic shipping goals. The message to the world is quiet, but firm. If you want this shortcut, you may also need Russia's services. So what about the $80 billion idea? It depends on what you count as part of the Northern Sea Route system. Some discussions bundle ports, rail links, energy projects, and security spending across the Russian Arctic into one giant total. The American Security Project pointed to a Russian plan it said could bring in over $80 billion of investment into Arctic development, while Reuters has reported Russia pitching Arctic projects to international investors. These numbers are not one clean invoice for a single route. They are a sign that the Arctic build-out is massive, and people argue about where the border of that cost really is. Power also brings geopolitical risk. Geopolitics means how countries use power and location. After February 24, 2022, many countries placed sanctions on Russia. Sanctions are rules that limit trade and payments between countries. On March 1, 2022, Reuters reported that the world's largest container lines temporarily suspended many shipments to and from Russia, citing sanctions and safety concerns. For the Northern Sea Route, that kind of pullback matters, because global shipping depends on trust, insurance, and stable rules. China has been planning for this Arctic future for years. In January 2018, China published China's Arctic policy, calling itself a near-Arctic state and describing a polar Silk Road. Reuters reported China linking Arctic shipping lanes to global warming and to the Belt and Road idea. A European Parliament briefing also noted China's goal of connecting China with Europe via Arctic routes, and its effort to build influence through research and business. This is China positioning for a world where the North is not a blank space on the map. Then the experiment started turning into headlines. In October 2025, Reuters reported the Chinese container ship completing an Arctic voyage to a United Kingdom port with cargo like electric vehicles and solar panels, cutting transit time compared to the usual route. Stories like that are not proof that the Arctic has replaced Suez. They are proof of something else. Companies and countries are testing a seasonal plan B because the world's main routes have shown they can be fragile. So where does this end? The Northern Sea Route is real and growing, and it will matter more each decade if the Arctic keeps warming. It can save distance in late summer, and it gives Russia leverage as a gatekeeper, but it will not replace the Suez Canal for year-round global container trade, because ice, weather, rules, and risk still limit the route. The bigger change is strategic. Strategic means it changes long-term plans. Every time the Arctic opens, even for a short season, it shifts how governments and shipping companies think about power, cost, and time. And there is one final tension we cannot ignore. This new road exists because the planet is losing ice. In July 2024, Reuters reported Arctic Council working groups warning that new fuel choices in the Arctic can create spill problems that are hard to manage in cold water, even as regulators try to reduce harm. That is the trade-off at the heart of this story. A shipping shortcut built by climate change. carrying economic promise and environmental risk in the same hull.